3, 2, 1, go. This is going to be pretty different. I don't think we've kind of touched a film quite like this one just yet.
Yeah, I remember watching it when it came out. I don't think I saw it at the cinemas, but it had a really intriguing premise where these, apocalyptic events are happening, and there's a huge epic scope to it just outside your window where I love the framing of the whole film where, yeah, it's just confined to one location, but there's huge epic stuff happening elsewhere. It's quite interesting how the movie is framed. But having said that, it's what we do. It's a great sort of Friday night weekend movie. It's not the greatest thing ever made. It's not trying to be. It's not pretending to be. But I do have a bit of a soft spot for it, and it's beautifully shot as well with the desert landscape and the sandstorms.
Real sense of isolation here, isn't there? Like everything's very kind of barren. Yeah.
Yeah, and desolation, and yeah, just that apocalyptic feel, not unlike the television show Carnival. Just, everything is so bleak and desolate, just signs of God's fury with humans. Legion is in this sense, it's from that quote from the Bible, with the man possessed by evil spirits. He says, "I am Legion, for we are many." And I think it more broadly a legion in a biblical sense more broadly refers to, a large gathering of demons or something along those lines.
Yeah.
As Paul Bettany arrives.
What was his lead up into this? What was he in just prior to this?
Oh, he's been well established, yeah. Again, it's hard to believe he's been around as long as he has. He's got one of those faces that doesn't seem to age. I remember him in Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World. I don't think it immediately preceded this. I also remember him as the killer in The Da Vinci Code.
Oh yeah, that's probably what I'm remembering him from.
Yeah, Kirsten Dunst, the movie, the tennis movie Match Point as well would have been either side of this kind of era for him.
So he's got some range.
Yeah. Paul Bettany.
It's something I find quite interesting. You'll notice through like the 2000s, like filming, like they seem to have that kind of oversaturation, like kind of tan, like especially around the 2005, 2007. Very noticeable in the first Michael Bay Transformers film. It was just something that all the films did, like, the Friday 13th remakes and all that kind of stuff. But going towards the end of the 2010s and going into, that decade, you'll notice that they were very keen on their kind of stone blues and greys with a lot of films like the Kate Beckinsale Underworld movies and all of that coming out, like this kind of color palette. Like, it's not muted the way films towards the mid part of that decade became, but it's got interesting use, like a kind of grain filter over everything.
Yeah, well, I'd like to go back to it. At the time, I didn't like it, but everything now is so bland and boring and washed out and dull and fucking ugly to look at. I'd love to go back to this.
Like, you see what I mean? Like the red, like the blood red, the ink of the tattoos, the skin, the walls. Like, it's not desaturated. It's got this kind of filter over it, but it doesn't rob. Yeah, it doesn't rob. A lot of films around the early 2010s were doing that. But by the midpoint of the 2010s, when your Zack Snyders and all of that started rocking up, good God Almighty, it was like illegal to have any color in a film.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like my kingdom for a movie with a decent color palette, as he's... And I like how it just immediately starts in the action. It's one of my frustrations with modern films as well. They don't get their story off and running. We don't have a lot of context yet, but he's arrived on Earth and now he's arming up because he knows that trouble's on its way and he's gearing up for a war. But like a modern movie today, this scene would probably happen in the 40th minute. It really gets off and running.
Yeah, there's a lot of films getting bloated when they really don't need to be. And I find it quite hilarious when people will criticize a film for being they could have shaved 40 minutes off of it. There's too many exposition dumps, and then they'll turn around and say, "Oh yeah, but the Batman was one of my favorite movies." Like, what? Really? What the? Like, look in my eye and repeat that dumb statement you just said. You get one dumb tweet a day. That was yours.
Yeah, I still need to get around to that. Maybe one day.
Notice the cross-shaped explosion on the wall there as well. That's very cool.
Yeah, really cool.
See, I remember this being something that Hideaki Anno said when he was doing Evangelion. Like, why go so heavy into Christianity, like with angels having stigmatas on their hands and cross-shaped explosions? And he said something to the effect of, because nothing like that really exists in Japan, like religious belief like that. So like the symbolism and really drew him in to inspire him to go that route with the angels. And it just goes to show you the kind of pull that it has. Like, I know like religion, faith, and there's a lot of interpretation in the Bible. Like, and for the longest time you weren't allowed to have fun with stuff like that, and bring your artistic vision to that, and the depiction of what you take away from the Bible. And then things like Supernatural started coming out, Evangelion came out, and then people were a bit more, okay, you can kind of play around in that world with the Bible.
Yeah, Darksiders as well was around this era.
Yeah, that's true. That's another one. Yeah,
yeah, and it's. And I love the movie on potential as well. The mythology probably isn't the best thought out. It may have done with another edit or two, but yeah, there's a lot of sort of green shoots for growth here. Although overall, I do concede it's a bit of a patchy film, and I think one of the things that hurt it, unfortunately, is sort of Paul Bettany's performance in it. He's playing Michael the Archangel, and it becomes apparent that he's gone against the word of God. God's decided that the human race has had its chance, and Michael is defying him to fight for the humans in this war that's about to start. But you don't quite get a lot of conviction from him. So I think as big of a star as he is, he's like, you don't. Oh, I probably wanted a bit more out of his performance. You don't quite get the impression that he's wholehearted about it.
I love the set dressing here. Just drag a couch out the front of the caravan, at the front of the trailer. That's top stuff, man.
Yeah, Lucas Black, and it's such a it's such an interesting location. Like the end of the world happens in a roadside diner. Like, what an interesting high concept.
It kind of reminds me of M. Night Shyamalan's film, which coincidentally 2010 was... do you ever see that Devil? When they're all stuck in the elevator and one of them's the devil, and the Shyamalan kind of moment at the end of that is, well, if the devil exists, clearly that means that God must exist as well, right? And it's... And that entire... Like, the revelation that the devil is real all takes place inside of an office elevator.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll have to try and source a copy.
I quite liked it. It has the bloke that I can't remember his name. Forgive me, but the bloke that played Jane Fonda's son in The Newsroom is the detective trying to figure that out. It was really good. I've been meaning to get around to it for a long time, and I finally did. And yeah, I love something that is a big of a revelation as that is just, it's not made out to be a big deal. Like, it's not this kind of big, grandiose kind of moment. That it just happened. There you go. Like,
yeah. Well, they're such great themes, and they're ripe for exploration. Stephen King has written a lot about, good and evil, and how strong evil can overcome weak good, and vice versa. Tolkien had what they call an eucatastrophe. So a catastrophe, something bad suddenly happens. A eucatastrophe, something good happens. Like, not only is Gandalf not dead, but he's back and more powerful than ever.
Yeah,
they're such great themes to play with good and evil.
Yeah, it doesn't have to all be doom and gloom. See, that's something that really bothers me a lot with films today, especially if they're trying to dabble in the age-old war of good versus evil. Nothing bothers me more than when the main takeaway is, oh well, being good just sucks. That really annoys me. That and that seems to be the way a lot of these films go these days.
Yeah, and it's just, and you just know the discourse around if this had come out today. So Lucas Black here is playing a character who wants to take care of this woman who's pregnant, but the child isn't his. I mean, can you imagine the online discourse if we got a hold of that plot point today?
Yeah, you beta orbiter cuck soy boy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Dennis Quaid. He always gives real wholehearted performances. He's really good in this. And he's good in everything.
The thing that always kind of the one role I wish Dennis Quaid did in his career, he would have been the ultimate Hal Jordan had they have locked that in. Like, probably around, like, the mid-2000s or something. You're looking at the Green Lantern right there. And it never happened. God, that's probably the biggest missed opportunity as far as the comic book craze go. But yeah, like, Flight of the Phoenix remake, which I absolutely love. I don't know why people hate it the way that they do.
That was a good movie. I liked that one.
Yeah, with the addition.
That might be my weekend movie this weekend.
Yeah, and Tyrese Gibson is in that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets around a bit.
Yeah, Charles S. Dutton as the cook.
I noticed that. Yeah, I love that kind of bit part. I'm looking at the starring role. Yeah, so a little cameo appearance there. And I was talking to someone about this on Twitter. The moment in The Lost World when the bus crashes into the blockbuster and you've got the Arnold Schwarzenegger King Lear and you've got the Tom Hanks movie poster and the Robin Williams one. I made a mention of that's my idea of an ideal cameo. The fact that Arnold Schwarzenegger has appeared in a Jurassic Park film through that King Lear poster, that's a cameo to me. Like, that's a true cameo.
That was funny.
Same with this Charles S. Dutton moment there. Like, that's an awesome little thing there. What bothers me about cameos these days is it's some A-list actor who walks on set for about 15 minutes of a cameo with a literal eat my shit attitude. That's not a cameo to me. That's not. You've totally missed the point.
Yeah, the girl at the jukebox, I forget her name, but she played Thea in the Arrow TV show, the Green Arrow show.
Yeah.
I forget her name, but yeah, that's where I am most familiar with her. But yeah, and sort of recognised her watching this a week or so ago.
It's one of my favourite things when it comes to these roadside sort of desert diners and all this kind of stuff. I always love the fucked ice machine out the front. Yeah, smoking when you're 6 months along. Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way in the world that would make it in these days. So it's really interesting. Well, what a world it was, and what a world we live in now. And yeah, it's something. Yeah, even once again, King is so great at like plot points like this, where it's just barren, and you get these random little bits of civilization that spring up.
One thing that I love the most, though, is that it's not so dead. You know when they do those desert shots in some films, and they turn up the exposure of the camera so high that everything just looks white. Like, that's oh yeah, well, it's all sun bleached. No, you're just pissing me off now with your editing. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this. Say goodnight, Denise. Yeah, the old phone box. See, like, what is this? Is like a play set out the side and all of that?
Yeah, there's all these little bits and pieces that hint they've been there for a while.
Far out. See, this is, what's one thing that, everyone, like, even if you haven't read the Bible, like, I'm not going to pretend that I have. Like, everyone, it's like what Megatron says in Nemesis Part 2. You've already read the Covenant of Primus, just the good parts. Everyone's like that when it comes to the Bible itself. But, I find it kind of fascinating, like, when people go to the Bible and you see a lot of artistic like videos and movies and all of that come out, and comics and stuff like that come out about it, they're always quick to go for the damnation route. Like
Yeah,
it's
the Book of Revelation has been a huge inspiration for so many things in pop culture.
yeah, we're all gonna die. We all don't deserve to live, and all this kind of stuff. And like, but especially when they break it down to the level of, yeah, well, I just don't like that person, and the whole judge not lest ye be judged. Oh yeah, but that's different. I find that that is totally a miss in today's climate, online or not.
Yeah. I'm in the middle of a good book about, Satan and how he's been depicted in over the years and in film and other things like that. Because yeah, if you're trying to develop a story and you need a really big bad guy that immediately the audience is aware of, you just go back to the original one, right? The original big bad of the universe.
Yeah, the devil.
Yeah, the devil.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll definitely tap Gabriel Byrne to reprise his role if I ever take a crack at it one day.
Yeah, that's one we'll have to get to one day.
Well,
That's a
he
great
did a much better
one.
job than Al Pacino. I'll say that now. Um, yeah, and that's kind of the thing, isn't it? Like, pretty much like every horror creature of the night that you could possibly think of. Like the earliest one is probably vampires in living
Yeah.
memories. Like that's pretty much derived straight from the devil, isn't it? Like that's why crosses hurt vampires. Like that's why stakes kill vampires. Like there's like the whole idea of a vampire itself leapt right out of those pages.
Yeah, they just seem to have been around forever, haven't they? The first ever vampire story. They've they've just seemed to be around forever. It's a bit of a thankless role Quaid's playing here, isn't it? He's trying to convince his son. It's and he probably does have a point to an extent. He's probably could do a bit better for himself, but he seems adamant not to.
I sure hope you like pumping gas for a living. I was too busy doing jack shit in school.
Yeah, and he's trying to sell his son on the idea that he's probably better off finding someone with a bit less baggage.
See, this is the thing, like with step parents and all, and this goes both ways, like step mums, stepdads, and all this kind of stuff. Like, I know in some circumstances it works, but it really does depend on the context of that situation. Like, does the
Yeah.
step parent in question already have kids of their own? Because if they're coming in on a blank slate, there's always going to be a miss. It's just human nature. There's
Well,
always going to be like some kind of a miss. I'm not saying it can't
well,
work,
the
but yeah,
yeah, absolutely, it can work. But the reality is, both parties need to go into that with their eyes open.
yeah,
Because you get, people accumulate baggage as the older they get, and there's normally, there's probably an ex that they still have to keep in touch with for obvious reasons. So it
yeah.
just, if you have the time and means, you probably are better off searching for someone who's not so, doesn't have those
Yeah, like
responsibilities.
that, like
And
that.
and that's all sort
Yeah,
of Quaid's trying to convince his son here to do.
yeah. Like now, if the son was something like 20 years old and he was trying to do this, and he said something to me, and he was like, "Yeah, well, it's time for me to start making my own decisions, be my own man." Okay, well, your first decision as your own man was a fucking stupid one, so obviously you're not ready yet. Yeah, but like that's what I mean. Like there's like the step parent in question. If they have no kids of their own, you can't start dating a single parent. Regardless of how they became single. Like you can't go into that expecting a blooming relationship as two adults who don't have that kind of baggage. Like you can't go into
Yeah.
it expecting that because the child is
You've
going to
got
be
to
a priority. Like you've got to, like you
got to be a
can't.
bit more
Yeah,
realistic.
yeah, exactly. So if you think it's just going to be me and her, and we'll tune into this kid like it's some dog in the back, or that ain't how it works, mate. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a really unsettling scene. This the
That
advent.
TV is just giving him some jip, isn't it?
Yeah, but the storm brewing outside with the insects.
I did get a chuckle out of that one, yeah, clear as day. You see, but that's like, this is Dennis Quaid's like bread and butter, though, isn't it? Like the everyday, the old Joe. He's always been the
Yeah,
kind of dad bod kind of guy, and I've always fucking loved him for it. Like
yeah, he's very good at playing the everyman.
yeah, and I think that's why he's done as good as he has. You know, like it's just like especially when nothing annoys me more when they cast a guy like Jai Courtney to be an everyman, and everyman does not look like that. Like I'll never forget one of the criticisms I heard about Taylor Lautner in the Twilight movies was, look, he's meant to be a 17. No guy looks that ripped at 17.
And I think Dennis Quaid, his floor is quite high. Much like Kurt Russell last week, I don't think he's been terrible in anything. Like with some actors, their ceiling is really high. You get really quality performances, but their floor is really low as well, and they're not very good. But he's been remarkably consistent his whole career, and he's occasionally, delivered some really good performances. But even at his worst, he's very solid to very good. And this is great stuff. It's characters not having the complete picture, trying to make decisions with incomplete information. They're in an isolated location.
Yeah.
They can't communicate with the outside world. It's quite good. It wouldn't work as well if they were in an urbanized area. It's so great. I love the framing of this movie, like in terms of its story.
I cannot believe that Tyrese Gibson and Dennis Quaid have done another movie together, and I didn't know about it. The other one was Flight of the Phoenix. Legion is the second one. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, man. How did that slip me by? I should have known that this was a thing back in the day. Good God.
Yeah, it's a bit of a forgotten film. It's hard to believe it. Yeah, it did get a sort of big mass release because it was such awkward timing it was 2010, so the comic book,
like Iron Man 2 and
film,
all of that were cracking out at the time. Yeah,
the comic book movies were a thing, and the sort of Marvel universe was just sort of taking flight. It wasn't really the big juggernaut it went on to be that sort of strangles the life out of any other movie. Like, I'm not against comic book films per se. I'm against the fact that there's so many of them and it pushes other interesting original properties out of the way. That's always been my whole beef with them. They can, like, I don't understand. Like, you go to a fucking movie theater and all, gee, what am I going to see? Spider-Man or Wonder Woman? Like, what kind of a fucking choice is that? So that's always been my beef with them.
Well, that's starting to become my problem with kaiju films as well. I've got a Godzilla film, I've got a King Kong film, and I've got some other big thing film, and I'm getting a little bit sick and tired of this shit as well.
Yeah, this is probably the most infamous scene. If the movie is remembered on any level, it's because of the old lady demon and the ice cream man that shows up a bit later. I often see this woman, the old lady demon, here as a gif or whatever online. So that's probably its lasting legacy. And just shit talking everyone in the diner.
Which, as a demon, should probably do, right? Like, like that's what they do best, isn't it? The whole point is to be taunting and just dribbling all the time.
Yeah.
I remember hearing a good quote from Supernatural when it came to demons, when Joe asked Dean, I know demons lie, but do they ever tell the truth? And Dean says to her, yeah, I guess, especially if they know if it'll fuck with your head. Like, yeah, I guess they can. You just can't shake the feeling that we've already gone through that subtle point of no return.
Yeah.
I love the little turnstile note thing up in the corner there with nothing on it. There's like 5-6 people in there, no orders. Awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I know that she just did before, but I mean, come on. Everyone's just kind of sitting in there for decoration. Yeah,
because I think Dennis Quaid mentioned in an earlier scene there's there's a more improved, advanced one near a freeway that people gravitate to.
Oh yeah, look at the flies and all of that, like the pestilence of the scene.
Yeah, it's a good detail because yeah, the flies are building up outside with that huge swarm. Yuck.
The most putrid fucking creatures on the planet, aren't they?
Yeah, just yeah, it's a quite an effectively done scene with the flies buzzing and the raw meat barely cooked.
Jesus. This is like I have seen little bits of this before and all this kind of stuff, but it does make you quite unsettled. Like I'm kind of squirming in my seat looking at this. Like like this is we're getting Texas Chainsaw levels of like creepy here. Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh, this is fucking me all up. Oh man, dropping the C bombs. Isn't it interesting how, like like we use it as a term of endearment down here, but like in Yankville, it's like like dropping the N word, isn't it?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah, yeah,
shit!
yeah, yeah.
No sequel for you. Like I'm gonna do a playlist for the channel, right? And it's gonna be the best throws of all time. That's gonna be on there. The second one is gonna be when Brandon Lee chucks the bucket of water in Showdown in Little Tokyo and just scones that guy with the hose. And the third one for my list so far is going to be Ben Stiller and Meet the Parents. Service! And then just smashes the table when they're playing volleyball.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, plant one on her. Yeah, like the depiction of demons and all this kind of stuff. I quite liked. The only time when they really rocked up and they were kind of immune to gunfire and all of that was in Supernatural. I'm sure there's things that have done it prior to that, but like for example, when Doom did demons and all of that, yeah, you could easily just grab a shotgun and kill them, even though they've come from an otherworldly plane, like such as hell, which is an afterlife in and of itself. But you could still kill them with conventional weaponry. Whereas it wasn't
Yeah.
until like Supernatural where you needed to have like special weapons and all of that have been blessed and all that kind of jazz to really kill them. So I do miss the era of you could just get a gun and kill a demon. Like you could just get a gun and kill an angel, like in Dogma and all of that.
Yeah, conventional weapons do hurt them in this, so and it's probably for the best just to sort of help the story along.
Far out, man. Yeah, you got to go for the jugular, man.
Yeah, the name of that actor who's been bitten escapes me as well. I remember him. It was from the 1990s Lassie film. I think it had a young Michelle Williams in it as well
Oh
as the
yeah.
girl in it.
I did catch on the opening credits that Kevin Durand has a role in this, and that was Keamy in Lost.
Yeah, you're right, and he's probably the most entertaining in this.
Yeah,
He's
he's a weird
I
one
found
for me,
myself.
eh?
Yeah, he's a. I can't say I'm a huge fan of him, but I do like him in this, and it's a very uh, pivotal role when he shows up. So yeah, he's quite good, and he's better. And again, I think it's what actually hurts the film because I think he's better than Paul Bettany, and Paul Bettany is so. The Kevin Durand is a villain in this, but I think he gives a better, more memorable performance than Paul Bettany does.
Well, more
So
often than
it's
not, he
interesting how it
plays a
works.
villain. Like more often than not, like
Yeah, he's really good in this. He's having a bit of fun and with it, and we've barely seen Michael the Archangel. since that.
Yeah, like it's almost like I was, when you were saying before, like in the diner, and like the main cast are unaware of the growing threat that's coming. It reminds me of the cold opening to the Transformers movie when Unicron just destroys an entire civilization and eats a planet. You never see him again, and the Autobots and Decepticons are having this battle. They've got no idea that this is nothing, like compared to what's about to come. Like
Yeah,
that
it's
cold
another
open.
great trope. Yeah, it's something A Song of Ice and Fire did as well. They're fighting this civil war for a throne, just completely oblivious to the real threat growing in the icy wastelands of the north. So it's wonderfully done. And it's a trope that never gets old. That whole concept will never get old. Just
The
yeah,
audience is
referring
aware of
to
something that the main cast isn't. Yeah.
yeah, where they have no idea that there's something on its way that just makes their war look childish. Because like when Apocalypse shows up, like Apocalypse doesn't give a shit about humans or mutants. He'll wipe yous both out.
Yeah. So who's this sack of shit? Just do the cop from the Crow.
Yeah.
We'll write it up under graffiti. Yeah, the ceiling kind of a bit of a throwback to The Exorcist when she jumped up
Yeah.
into the corner.
Yeah, of course. Every demon movie, they've got to crawl around like a spider. It's
Yeah,
just
like like having seen the original Exorcist and a couple of the other cracks that they've had at it, it's probably the golden standard of a horror film that really doesn't hold up a lot. Like that original one, it is a bit of a struggle to get through at this day and age.
yeah, because I never saw it as a kid, but you watch it. Yeah, like I watched it for the first time as like a 30-odd-year-old, and like it's been. I think it's lost a bit of its power because it's been so diluted with parodies and remakes
And
and
the fact that
homages and
the parodies are more memorable than the original film now, because most
well,
people have probably discovered The Exorcist through a
yeah,
parody before seeing the original thing.
yeah, that's right. So when you go back to the original, it probably isn't that scary. Yeah, there's yeah, I always had the memory that Michael showed up at night, but here he is with the commandeered police
And
car.
the name of the diner, Paradise Falls.
Yeah, it's very subtle.
Yeah. It's like when Dante in Devil May Cry is trying to work out the name for the nightclub that he's at in DMC3. And after he has his battle with Virgil and all of that, the twin brother and all of that, the end of the final shot of the game is the actual opening of the nightclub, and the name of the nightclub is Devil May Cry. Do you see what they did there?
Sirach.
Yeah, Ciroc vodka. Yeah, I wonder what the idea behind the tattoos was.
Yeah, just
Um,
those sort of angelic markings. Again, you'd think he'd show a little bit more urgency. I'm really curious about the choices he's making as an actor here, and maybe it's from the director as well. But you'd think for a guy who just defied God, you'd think he'd be a bit. So he's abandoned God. He's turned against his own kind to fight for humans. You'd think he'd be a bit more tolerant and understanding of their plight, or maybe because he's an angel.
I think that's the idea, because that was something that Arno again used, especially with the final angel in Kaoru with Evangelion, was like Kaoru doesn't understand concepts like shyness and awkwardness and anger and all that kind of stuff, because being an angel, he's
Yeah,
eaten from the tree of life, whereas humans had the fruit of wisdom. So he
yeah.
doesn't understand those kind of cues or anything like that. Maybe they're channeling a bit of that here. Um,
Yeah, you could be quite right. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh on him, but
I mean, even
yeah,
like he's a
because
fallen angel, but an angel nonetheless. Like he's not
yeah,
human, so it wouldn't make sense for him to understand
the
anything like
acting,
that.
yeah, like be acting like a human.
Yeah, yeah, I can handle it. But the prior scene just proved that he couldn't pull the trigger. But
Yeah,
Anyway.
he's and yeah, I just no matter how big or small, I love the arming up scene in movies.
Yeah, I think everyone's one of the probably the big ones, or at least not in the top three, has to be the guns, lots of guns line from the
Yeah,
Matrix. I mean, that's got to be up there with armoring up. Like that's why it's gonna work.
yeah. Just give their sales pitch, just take them through the full range of guns.
Because isn't that what heaven means? Paradise.
Paradise Falls is a was it a novel or an epic poem? Was it Dante who did Paradise Falls? It is a play on. I have heard that title before.
I did quite like that silhouette shot of it just then, because it's like a you got the petrol Bowsers out the front, you got the diner, you got the makeshift mechanics with the tire rims all stacked up, like it's a bit of a jack of all trades.
Yeah, uh, yeah. I think Dante, Paradise Lost. Sorry, is what I'm thinking of. Dante's Inferno.
So that's got to be what they're doing here. Like this, yeah. Like I was thinking that Paul Bettany was giving us his what he would have done if he was cast as James in Twin Peaks. But he's got slightly more range than that. I'd like to think.
Yeah.
Just so wooden all the time. Yeah, because I think another thing as well that you have something that's in human form but isn't human. It's kind of a tough sell how people act with it and how it interacts with casts that are playing just people. Like you've got your Terminators and all that kind of jazz, and like it is kind of a tricky balance to get right. Like the only reason it flies in a film like Terminator is because there's always someone who knows what that actually is. Like in the first one, you've got how the punks interact with it and how Sarah interacts with it, and then you've got Kyle who knows what it is, and then it's an easier sell to Sarah, and then in the second one, John already knows what it is, so it's an easier sell. Like it's easier to kind of break that down. But when it's like a harsh cutoff with no outlet like this, it is quite tough to get the balance right.
Yeah, you're quite right. It's yeah. I think if they had have struck a bit better balance, it probably would have been a stronger film. But because yeah, I guess I've always found it hard to sort of reconcile. He wants to save humanity, but then in a few minutes' time, the pregnant woman basically has to threaten him to get off his ass and go out and save one of them who's surrounded in the parking lot. He seems he wants to save the human race, but by that same token, he's got callous disregard for the human race. But I get his mission is to protect the baby who will grow up to be the savior of mankind. Um, yeah, this is the other infamous sort of scene that the with the ice cream man. He's freaky as fuck, isn't he?
Yeah, it's Skip.
Yeah,
Fucking hell, just look at it.
yeah,
Yeah, I like. Yeah, he don't look too bad. Yeah, okay. Let's see. And this is what you get with Tyrese. Like he's really good at doing that. Like he does it all the time in the Transformers movies. Like with the left cheek moment and all of that. Yeah, here we go. We got to do the spider thing again. Because there's obviously, and it does work in a lot of cases. The human with or the humanoid with like out of touch proportions, like really long limbs, skinny waist, very big shoulders, and all of that. Like the kind of off balance, off center, kind of lumbering. Like it is unsettling to see that.
yeah.
Far out. Look at these guys. They're not fucking around.
Yeah, there. Here come the cavalry.
Yeah, they must be listening to the Super Troopers techno song. Like, when they're on their way in. Yeah, so we've all loaded up. We're doing this. See, this is the zombie strategy here.
Yeah.
And there's something when they were in the car and they were driving off with old mate that got bit. One thing that I wanted to say there, that's like I know we live in a rather kind of rural area with a lot of things spread out, it is kind of unsettling to just drive for hours on end and not come into contact with anything. Like, knowing that you're probably about as far away from everyone else as you possibly can be at that moment. Like, it's very...
Yeah,
it is chilling sometimes to think about.
yeah, some parts, yeah, further out west are extremely remote, yeah.
Yeah, you just got to deal with it.
This is how you deal with these situations.
Buddy, get on the friggin' horse. I don't think he's kidding. Yeah, so this is yeah,
It's kind of setting the stakes because they're all possessed by demons, but the demons aren't very bright. There's not really much of a strategy or anything. They're just kind of like it's living up to its title, a legion, just this endless horde that's just going to keep throwing themselves until they break down their defenses.
yeah, look, I don't care if it's your neighbor, your partner, your wife, your kids, or whatever. If if they've got those glazed over eyes, you shoot. Yeah, I love seeing Dennis Quaid just put in the work, mate. Listen, he's got a noob tube on that thing, man. Just do the Dutch flunk. Yeah, so old mate's still hanging on. I always thought he died very quickly when the flies overtook the car.
Yeah, no, they made it back to safety just in time, but he's in a bad way.
I mean, let's be honest, man. You take a strike there, you're pretty much screwed. Yeah, he ain't gonna make it. Oh, stop talking crazy.
His days just going from bad to worse.
Shit. Yeah, well, we don't want things to be too easy now, do we? Yeah, like it literally just breaking in and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and only some of them seem to talk as well. Like, not all of them, all of the demons seem to be able to do that.
Yeah. Look at him go.
Yeah, that's how you do it, mate. This is how you deal with these situations. Yeah, and like an angel using guns to smite demons. That's how you do it. Okay, so the child. What makes the child special?
So Michael will reveal that, yeah, her unborn son will be mankind's savior.
Shit.
as an adult, like not in the next 5 minutes. So Michael, it's
yeah. John Connor light.
He's and I guess it kind of explains why he's a bit indifferent to the fates of the others, because he sees his mission to protect Charlie and her baby,
which is what the son was always adamant about doing, and then an angel literally falls out of the sky and says, "Look, you're not good enough. I'll do it for you."
Yeah, so because it was that specific command, he reveals a bit later. God ordered him to kill the baby, but he couldn't go through with it.
Yeah. I mean, God sounds like a real dickhead in this story, doesn't he? Like he's washed his hands of it. But if it really didn't bother him that much, if he hates humans and doesn't care for what happens to them, why go through the effort? Like, I guess he didn't actually send the demons there, did he?
Well, this is like biblical Old Testament shit, like the fire and brimstone God who, he flooded the earth for Christ's sake to teach us a lesson. The hellfire and brimstone part of the Bible. And it's kind of funny how some films like to lean into that, because I was reading that was the original ending for Mimic, where it had some kind of biblical undertones, where it's revealed the male Judas king survived, and it was basically the like humankind had its chance. This is some like divine retribution for fucking the planet up and not getting along. God's decided he's done with us, and now it's the Judas breed who will mutate and evolve and become the dominant species. It like shit really escalated in that original plan for that movie.
That really got out of hand fast.
Yeah.
I would have just done the Tony Todd, and that's a Mac Daddy you do not want to fuck with. Or what does Matt Damon say in Dogma? You're talking about war on God. Well, fuck that. Yeah. Well, what's that line from oh God, what is it? The Last Supper. Indeed, we are all of God's children, and like children, we need to be punished.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, I love that. You got to break it down.
Yeah, because it's hard to kind of really put that into context these days. There was a time when, like, belief in the existence of God was just a given. Like, even experts, like scientists, the best in their fields, like in, Middle Ages and other time periods, the acceptance of God was just a given. What else could explain it? So it's only relatively recently that like people question the existence of God and evolution and the rise of other theories of creation. So it's quite interesting. We have this kind of sort of romanticized view of what life in the Middle Ages was like. It was a pretty brutal existence in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I don't really want to go back there.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with how things are now. I mean, I can handle the occasional dickhead in my day. It's like watching a movie like Sharknado. Like, I can handle a dickhead, but I wouldn't want to go back to the Dark Age kind of dickheads that would just stone you. Like, I can't handle those kinds.
Yeah, and I mean that's a perfect point. Like, there's a reason it's called the Dark Ages. We know so little about what happened during that time.
You come here seeking your retribution. Yeah, see, like, how, like, I suppose this falls into the, like, again, the artistic flair that people take away from things that are in scripture and stuff like that. Like, and then people start talking about their hypotheticals. Like, what if God makes, like, down the future, does make his presence known? Like, what if he did it, like, tomorrow? What does that do? What does that change? How does mankind handle that when something like omnipotent, like we're talking God, the big man himself has just proven that he exists? Whether he appears, whatever form you believe that is, if you believe it's a woman, whatever, all that kind of thing. Like, if that actually happens and it's an indisputable fact that a God exists, like, what does that mean for mankind? How do people handle that? Like, that's the kind of stuff that causes mass suicides, I think. Like, you wouldn't be able to comprehend something like that. Like, I mean, I don't think I could.
Well, I mean, it has a big effect on people, even for people of faith. I remember talking to someone who said like Jesus' return has been prophesized for thousands of years, and I remember them saying, I hope it, like, if the rapture happens, I don't want it to happen like now. I want to grow up and do a bit with my life before it happens, because believers, God raptures all of his believers. It's interesting to sort of talk about, and it's just a sort of broad kind of topic. It's so fascinating to think and discuss.
Or it could just be
I
that,
believe they
yeah.
do. Yeah, I think they sort of do concede now. Like, there was a historical Jesus. Whether he did everything the Bible reckons, it's that's kind of up for grabs. But there's I think that it has been established now there was a historical person who was in that area, that part of the world at that particular time. So yeah, it's all, I mean, it's Oh,
Yeah, that is
I'm not exactly an expert on these matters.
I was just going to say that smoke there and chugging the beer after saying something
Yeah,
as profoundly like what you just said, and that being the clip that comes up right after that. That is proof
yeah,
enough for me that there is a God.
yeah. Well, no one can deny it's not the most well-deserved cigarette and beer break.
I mean, yeah, I know, yeah. Yeah, that's 5 minutes out of my coffee and smoke time that you owe me.
Yeah, I don't have to clock on for 3 minutes, damn it.
I'm still on my break. I'll stay on it. Look, there's nothing wrong with lighting one up.
Yeah, her husband just died and he's chatting her up.
I love how he gives her the beer that he's already taken a swig out of. That's
Yeah,
class all the way.
at times like this, you need a husband or a boyfriend.
Yeah, I'm single. Yeah. Well, you're the one getting blown by a grieving relative, not 5 feet from the body. Yeah, I need to remember that. So next time I'm chatting up some woman, I'll just take a big gulp out of a beer and then just give it to her. That's how you do it, mate.
Yeah, you leave them with a mouthful.
Yeah, I'm just taking a sip. Yeah, but I just, that's what I mean, like the man's man. The fact that it's a beer and it's not some JD and Coke crap. Like he literally just cracks open a beer. Like that's the man's man, you know? A man's man would have a beer. I tell you, this bloke, um, like he's got this perplexed look at like he's a compass dancing personified for this whole movie.
It's his default facial
Yeah, I
expression.
know. Like it's
He's
like
quite an interesting actor because he was the main lead in the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. It's such a weird, bizarre entry in that saga because it's like the sort of standalone spin-off direct-to-video where it was running out of steam before it found this ungodly second life where it just stormed like the box office.
fucking hell.
6 films later. But yeah, he was the lead in that kind of, and it's always been this weird quirk in that series where it's, yeah,
Yeah, that
and then
face,
he's in it as
man.
well. Yeah, he's been in some high-profile movies, considering he doesn't seem to have a lot of range, does he?
That's going to be my next staff card photo. I'll just sit down and be like,
Yeah, I'm not bagging him at all. I go through life with that bewildered look on my face.
yeah, but like it takes something truly shocking for me to lose composure like that. But to be like that all the time without trying to be or anything like that, it's like, oh, did you say action? I'm kind of waiting for that.
Here he goes again.
Yeah, like. If I ever want to cast a guy who's totally lost at sea, I'll tap this bloke because he'll win it every time. Like the half open, like the mouth hang. Like that was me sitting up at the back of a classroom in senior year, like not taking anything in. Like you've got an angel telling you that God is real. And that all this is happening, and that's your face. Yeah, I'll take a shift.
Yeah, I'll take a shift.
All right, now, in case this guy wasn't lost at sea enough, Michael just decides to drop that on him. And yeah, deal with it. Yeah, have another one, mate. See. This is like not to just gush over Dennis Quaid all night, but nothing annoys me more when you're casting the most prissy, pretty, pussified, pretty boy in a role like that. Like, look at the grizzle, like all over the face, the stubble going on, the smoking, the unkemptness of it, all covered in grease and shit. Like Dennis Quaid can pull that off. If you're
Yeah,
casting Robert Pattinson in a role like that, you are an idiot.
yeah. These are probably the strongest parts of the film, these flashbacks to heaven,
Yeah, with the actual
where,
wings.
yeah,
Because I think the closest we had to a special effects kind of powerhouse of an angel on screen probably would have been to X3 The Last Stand. I don't think we had a CG angel or a practical angel of any kind in a high budget film before, or at least not around this period.
yeah, I do remember that.
It still
And
looks
I
pretty
think
good, yeah.
Bettany's at his best in these scenes where you just sort of do get that little bit more warmth in his role.
Yeah, and the black wings, I think, is an interesting choice instead of white ones. Like Heaven's not quite the cloudy, you know,
Mm,
like what most artists depict it to be.
yeah.
Yeah, so Kevin Durand has finally made his presence known. And what
Yeah,
we got
he's
to be about
playing.
halfway through the film by now, and he's only just now rocked up. Yeah, we're about the halfway mark. Yeah,
Yeah, he plays the Archangel Gabriel, and he's sort of adamant that God's will and God's law and God's word must be followed. He's he's not liking Michael's reluctance and reticence. Jeez, isn't that insane? That wow.
I mean, if you've got a while we're talking about God, this is something I find quite interesting because I know in a lot of these we've got this one magical creator. Take your pick. It doesn't have to be religion or anything like that. It could be sci-fi based or whatever. More often than not, they go the mother route. Like, you've got your mother nature, you got the mother hen, you got the queen of something, or this, that, and the other, and it's a female deity. More often than not, it is. The only other time I can think of a straight up male creator, like a male the one, is Eru from the Legendarium of Tolkien. That's the only other time I can think of it where it's explicitly stated to be male. Just about every other time it's a female entity in the place of God. Not that there's anything
Yeah.
wrong with that, but it's pretty rare for it to be flat out said that it's a guy.
Yeah, his faith was very important to Tolkien. It's influenced and it's infused in a lot of his works. This yeah, she's struggling a bit with the events.
It was one beer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll pay that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it was one beer, and look what's going on here. Yeah, she's literally seen the light. Like, that's happening on screen right now. Yeah, the inverted cross, mate. Oh, shit.
Yeah, there's been a lot of sort of debate and discussion and research around crucifixions. The Romans were pretty big on them, and because nobody, again, believe it or not, nobody really knows. There's several conflicting, competing schools of thought about how people were actually crucified, and yeah, there is a theory that the easiest way would have been to do it with them upside down. There's yeah, it's just a horrible way to die.
The science faith argument is what really kind of blows my mind. And that is because it can only be one or the other. So, like, people will say, yeah, no, I don't go in for religion or any of that kind of garbage because, there's no scientific background to really prove that it exists and all of that. I'm like, well, maybe you're missing the key word called faith. Like, faith isn't
Yeah.
proven. Like, that's
Yeah,
why it's faith,
I,
guys.
I, I find it really hard to believe there's not a single scientist in the world who doesn't believe in God. I mean, I don't think people are that black and white.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's why it's faith. Like, oh, well, people only pray because they think God's going to give them a handout if they do. Or it could just be that, for a bit of peace and comfort, like, having worked pretty closely with churches and stuff like that myself, there's always that kind of, if you're ever in need of a bit of peace and comfort, the big man's always going to hear you. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh yeah, well, I'm not religious, I've never done this before, it's another good quote I heard, oh yeah, no, they're atheists, they hate God. Well, that's not what being an atheist means. They don't hate God, they just don't believe in it. Um,
Yeah.
well, that's cool. If people say, oh, well, they're atheists, so they hate God. Yeah, but God still loves them, though.
Yeah.
It's not like one in, all in. I'm pretty sure he's open to listen. See, like, I don't believe in, like, I probably don't believe in, I'm sure there's a good word for it, but I definitely believe like another plane of existence. Like, I do believe there is something like that. Like there is a creative force outside of our means. Whether that's, if you want to call it God or whatever it is, I do believe in something like that. Like, absolutely. Like, it's.
Yeah. Well, I think the sort of issue is where our whole understanding of the universe comes from how we make sense and understand the universe. And what I mean by that is something like the Fermi paradox, for instance. If we're one form of life and advanced civilization in one star system and there's billions of them, then where are all the aliens? But that's our understanding of a mathematical system we've designed. What if intelligent life, despite the vastness and incredible size of the universe, is still rare? So I guess I'm not articulating my point very clearly. We developed ways to make sense of our existence. We're looking at the universe through that prism.
Mm.
So that's why I think sometimes we forget that point with a lot of these discussions. We invented maths to make sense of the universe. What if, despite all of that, it's, intelligent life is still incredibly rare?
Yeah, or it could just be as simple as they've seen what we're doing to each other down here and they don't want to mess with that at all. Because if I was an outsider looking in, I couldn't help but think, look, Earth is a nice place to visit, but fuck going down there right now. Not until they start making sense, and clearly we're not there yet. But that'll be another quite profound day. Like, Jesus, like whenever Jesus rises again, or aliens are confirmed to be real and all that kind of stuff. Like, you can only imagine the pandemonium of the human race.
Well, I think, yeah, I'm not so convinced. Have you noticed, like, just the rising tide of apathy? Well, even when you mentioned the alien thing, like the U.S. government are having inquiries now. The U.S. government have basically conceded there's things in the sky that we're not sure what they are. We can't identify them, and no one cares. It's like, so I think if Jesus announced his return, it'll
trend on Twitter. It'll trend on Twitter, and everyone will go about their day. You've just had walking existence that God is real, and for you it was just a trend. Yeah.
Yeah, I think most people would just think it was a hoax and go on with their day. I really struggle with apathy because I'm seeing it a lot in society.
Just so numb, like, to anything, unless there's, Well, we also live in the world where there's plenty of people now who are willing to do the right thing and stand by their beliefs, so long as there's a camera around to see them do it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that's going on. Anything for the likes. Yeah, like, Jesus was a cool dude, but what did he do apart from the Bible? You're asking me, what did Jesus do apart from Christianity? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's
quite it's an interesting scene. This one, it's
very, like, the dark kind of lighting. It's almost like a confessionary, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's quite kind of sad. She confesses she doesn't really want her baby. It's really powerful scene here.
The abortion issue, mate. If you're for it, you're a son of a gun. If you're against it, you're a son of a gun. All I'll say is this on a subject like that, and that is, thank God I'll never have to face a decision like that. Like, because fuck, man, that's way too much for me. I'll go and have a beer with Dennis Quaid while you figure that out.
Yeah, it's yeah. Did you think they overdid Quaid on the beers? Like, maybe one or two just to take the edge off you to relieve some stress. But
But now
when
he's
it cut
isn't
to
he
the
like
morning and
blackout
he's
drunk? Like he's like,
well, yeah, the scene just before as the sun was rising and he's passed out on the roof. I'm not sure I'd probably hit the Terps that hard if I've just been under attack.
yeah, maybe not being under attack. Like I would probably do that when I knew that the iceberg had hit and there was no way out of this. I would probably drink myself stupid then. I mean, I've been on some benders in my time, but Quaid's going for an all-time record here.
Uh, if only they really leant into it, like have Michael like trip over some empties. For fuck's sake.
Nah, they should have had him like in the back, like in the manager's office. And when they go and check on him in the morning, they open up the door and like all the empties fall out of it. And then he's like laying on the desk with his jacket over him and like an apron as a blanket. You come home like Dennis Quaid's the type of bloke in this movie. You come home after a rough day on a Friday, you start opening up the beers, and before you know it, you're waking up Sunday morning still in your work clothes. Now, I don't think I've gotten that bad, but something strikes me that his character in this probably has done that a few times.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've probably done it a couple of times on a Saturday, but by the Sunday I think I've showered up a bit.
Yes, so that's a whole 48 hours you can't account for after knocking off on Friday. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, yeah, well, it's a good thing I know my limit. Yeah, yeah, maybe they could have, but like I don't believe he has top billing on this film. Like he's probably the highest caliber actor in it, but he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has kind of. He's definitely part of the supporting cast of this.
Yeah, it's a good point you make. He's probably more established and had a more long running career than Paul Bettany, but yeah, Paul Bettany's the sort of main guy in this.
Yeah, rightio. He's with us now. I love the inquisitive facial expressions that he makes.
Yeah.
I've always believed that with an actor, you can always tell how awesome their acting chops are if they can sell you on just a look. Like Ian McDiarmid can do that. Robert De Niro can do that. Arnold Schwarzenegger can do that. Like even Jean Claude Van Damme can do that. Dennis Quaid's one of those guys who absolutely can do that. Like without saying anything and can just totally act out dialogue just with his look.
Yeah. He's really great.
Yeah, here we go. So what we're
Yeah,
led
it's a
to
great
believe are
moment.
real survivors.
Yeah, and it's really well done this particular sequence because can't you don't know for sure, but you can't take the chance.
I love the green
Yeah,
shot, like to really break up like the dusty oranges and like the sundowns and the scorching sun and all that kind of stuff. We got this nice kind of neon green in the
yeah,
background there that really makes this stand out from every other shot in the film thus far. I'll say it till the day I die. I think I've said it in every commentary that we've done. I love the one note color shots, and I love that green.
yeah.
Yeah, you got to fuel up. And like, yeah, just having a bit of. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I love how now they're just
It's
getting out looking like punkers. Well,
yeah,
like this
all
looks
these
like the knot.
guys.
Like this looks like the knot with Rose the Hat.
Yeah, yeah. Or they've just wandered out of Mad Max in the desert.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Take that clip of them running over to the car to grab the kid, and then just crop in Favola, Steven Seagal, and just see how well that blends together. Yeah, I mean, like that. It's crazy, and just coming off of COVID, you've really got to think about that. Like, look at how quick people were with the COVID scares and all of that to immediately disregard their fellow man.
Yeah.
It was crazy to me. Like even when things like swine flu were blowing up in the 2000s and all that, people weren't so easily swayed like that. Like, like if someone was down, people were still happy to lend a hand and all of that and get people the help that they needed when they couldn't do it. But when COVID rolled around, a lot of people are quick to say it's because of the internet and all that. Yeah,
Yeah, well, it
it's
was
so
never going to
quickly for
happen.
people to quickly just totally say fuck you to their own family and all of that. It was just crazy some of the behaviors that came out of that.
Yeah, well, it was never going to be one in all in when some industries were hit really hard by laws and restrictions, and some industries got through relatively unscathed, and some industries that should have been stood down were allowed to keep going. So I can understand that in a way. It was never going to be a very unifying experience when so many people got screwed over through no fault of their own.
Yeah.
And this is the scene I was mentioning earlier. She
Yeah.
basically has to blackmail him to go and save another human.
And I love how the weapon that she was gonna yeah, no, put down. We're gonna sit this, like that's if you want to piss them off, but if you want to blow their fucking heads off, you
Yeah,
take this out there.
yeah. And how ubiquitous, hasn't it? The Night of the Living Dead and those zombie games on Call of Duty, like boarding up the windows, and like it's so ubiquitous now. Whenever there's a siege against, yeah, like I said earlier, like an endless horde of enemies just trying to hold on.
Yeah. I mean, and
Yeah,
it's
I'm
always
not
a
sure.
yeah.
Is that realistic? Like I've seen this in a couple of films.
What, using a
Igniting.
petrol Bowser as a flamethrower?
Yeah, it doesn't seem very realistic to me. But I'm not watching this for realism, mind you. But I'm not sure
Yeah,
if that
I
can
think I
really.
think Patrick Swayze has a lot to answer for, but unfortunately can no longer do that because it wasn't
Remember in
awesome.
Zoolander,
Like,
they're having a water fight with the petrol.
yeah, and then they start having cigarettes. I find this quite, yeah, the whole using a petrol Bowser as a flamethrower, or what's an even, what's something that's an easier sell is just dousing everyone and then flicking a match on them. That
Yeah.
that works, but nah, man, you just get the Zippo lighter out and just light up the Bowser.
Yeah, I need to retract that. That was a really dumb thing of me to say. Like, I'm watching a movie about angels fighting demons. No, wait a minute. I'm going to draw the line at a petrol Bowser flamethrower.
But that's what I'm talking about. It's like the suspension of like when people say, "Oh, I want to go to the movies to be entertained. I want to have fun." Yeah, but you're also the same idiot who goes, "Oh, that wasn't very realistic." Well, which is it? Do you want fun or do you want realistic? Because you can't have both.
Yeah.
Like, I hate movies that try to play themselves so realistic. Like, one that did it that has aged like piss vinegar is The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Like, that has aged terribly, that, because it was so hell-bent on being realistic with the
Yeah.
cell phones.
Yeah, and gritty and down to earth. And
And it looks terrible today. Like, it's still a great movie, but it looks terrible because of things like
yeah,
that.
some parts of it haven't aged well at all.
I'd much rather have fun, and like that's what I mean. Like what you said at the beginning of this, like this is the movie that you go to on a Friday night because why not? You take the missus out, all that kind of stuff. You go there, and why not? You're in the mood for a bit of a horror, man. Go for it.
Yeah, if I wanted realism, I'll just take a fucking sleeping bag to work on a Friday night and just hang out there.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't go home.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get in some OT if I really wanted realism. Yeah, well, like that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's like when people say, "Oh, the moment with Bryce Dallas Howard running in high heels in Jurassic World totally took me out of the film." So hang on, her footwear is a deal breaker, but the massive CGI'd 7-ton hybrid genetically engineered Tyrannosaurus Rex behind her gets a pass. Like, are you serious? Like, but you can't have you can't have movie discussions with people like that. You can't because they're not interested in hearing any other side. So you'll never convince them. It's like
Yeah.
you waste your time arguing that point with people.
Yeah. One thing I didn't remember from sort of watching this back in 2010, I actually didn't think she had the baby in the film. I thought they the people who survived escaped to live to fight another day. So I was a bit taken aback when, yeah, she actually does give birth here, because I don't remember it at all. I don't remember much about this film. I was just sort of this, a lot of this sort of subject matter was in my mind the last couple of months, and that's why I decided to dust it off and
Yeah, this.
give it a watch, because I do have the Blu-ray. I bought the Blu-ray back in the day because, yeah, I'm a fan of. It's not a very sort of complex or sophisticated mythology, but well, like, I give this movie a lot of pass marks just on pure potential, and there's a lot of sort of creativity in it as well.
Yeah, this woman's about as stable as a three-legged chair at the moment, isn't she?
Yeah, and she ends up doing a lot of damage to the group. She's, yeah, gaslighting the daughter here, and very, very nearly makes it away with the kid.
Yeah. Hi, Bishop. You need anything else? No. It's a little bit like that. Yeah, far out. I tell you, it didn't Michael look like he was about ready to chuck the towel in when he saw the baby? Like that look on Paul Bettany's face, just totally washed out. Like, well, it's a job half done, mate.
Yeah, and again, there's not a lot of sort of background or research you can do on this movie because it's been largely forgotten. I'd like to know what really attracted him to the role. He's because he has done some genre kind of films here and there, and how could we forget he's the Vision in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't
Yeah.
know how that escaped me when I talked about him at the start of the film.
Oh, but I did. My question was, what did he do around this time that led into this? Which is probably why that never came up.
Yeah, because I quite enjoyed it. I'm not overly a huge fan of the Vision per se, but I did enjoy WandaVision, the Disney Plus series.
Jesus, every time you get these outside shots, you just see more and more of them.
Yeah,
They're like the Urukai.
yeah, it really reminds me of like those zombie games and sort of those Romero films. Yeah, just how long can you hold out?
You just defeated the first wave.
Yeah,
Well, I'll say that to Paul Bettany if I was ever in this film with him. In case we die, there's something I got to tell you. You got the biggest dick I've ever seen on a man.
yeah. It's and I think it is a sort of quality ending, as Michael is telling them that they're going to send Gabriel to finish the job.
Looks like I'm going to have to kill you for real now.
Now I'm going to have to kill you all over again.
Far out. See, and this is like, it's like that quote in Something About Mary: love will make you do fucked up things. Yeah, well, let's not forget, grief makes you do even more fucked up things.
Yeah. And now what's interesting about this is it's established in a minute the demons can't go near the baby. So
But they could
that
go near it if it wasn't born. That's why they could
yeah,
attack her while she was pregnant.
yeah. The fact that the woman can hold her means she's not possessed. She's just gone crazy.
Yeah, so now we're definitely leaning into the angelness of it. I mean, and it's always a very powerful thing to see an angel spread its wings.
Yeah, and it's quite. I remember it being really goofy, but I quite like this whole sequence, the battle, and Kevin Durand. I think he does give a better performance in this than Paul Bettany does. He's quite entertaining as the villain here.
Isn't it funny? Like, every Kevin Durand role you could possibly think of, he's always a villainous character all the time. Like, I can't think of something he's been in where he's been a stand-up kind of guy. No, he's always been a villain or a two-time piece of shit or something like that. Like,
Yeah, Kimi, and I think he was the Blob in one of those Wolverine movies.
I think
from
so
memory.
too. Yeah. But I do love that. Just walk in, no words, and just start swinging a mace, dealing out some judgment.
Yeah,
No words, because
and
what's to say?
Yeah, and it's a good juxtaposition with Paul Bettany, who sought out human clothes and no longer has his wings, so he's at a major disadvantage tactically here. Michael now has to accept the consequences of his choices. He has to fight a much stronger opponent now, unarmed, or not unarmed, but under strength and fatigued. They've been in heavy combat, fighting off these hordes of demons, and now he's got to stand toe to toe with a more powerful, fresher opponent.
See, that's something that I like discussing about like when the climax happens when when your two big hitters get together and one of them's disadvantaged over the other. Like like the T-1000 and the Steel Meal. Like another one for me was the T-Rex and the Indominus Rex. And people talking about, oh yeah, the T-Rex could have easily have won that fight. The Indominus Rex has had one of the toughest days in existence. It's been shot at, it's been blown up, it's had doors closed on it, and Ankylosaurus clubbed it, and all this kind of shit. It's fought off a pack of raptors. It's not going into the fight anywhere fresh, and it drops the Rex in a matter of minutes. Like, the Rex had no shot.
Yeah.
Like, similar deal here. Like, Michael's going into this nowhere near fresh.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a really good performance from this bloke. He almost had me convinced that Michael had gotten through to him, but he's not a free thinker. He just cannot get over the fact that God's word is law, and his orders must be carried out.
Yeah, stupid little soldier.
Because Michael,
Yeah.
I think another thing that hurts the movie is Michael. He does briefly mention it in a roundabout way, but we never get any sort of really fleshed out ideas why he made the choice he did. he he just kind of
It
disagrees with
seems
the
to
morality
it
of it.
seems to me that Michael's disregarding of God's plan and all this kind of stuff. He seems to me that he played it when he landed on Earth at the start of the film without his wings and all that kind of stuff. He must have played it like Simon in The Inbetweeners when the family tells him that he's moving. Well, I'm not going. Stick that in your fucking plans. Like, it must have been something short and sharp as that, because, I mean, he got booted out pretty quickly.
Yeah,
And
well, yeah,
in such a closed off environment to try and span your wings out when there's tables and all sorts of stuff in the way. Like, I love fights where you don't have a lot of maneuverability.
yeah.
Jesus. Hey, Big Bird. I think the black wings is what really sells it, though. Like, I know Michael had black wings in the Heaven flashback. See, and genuinely have some fun with the costume designs. Like, I'm glad we're not wearing robes, but wearing actual, like, Roman-esque armor.
Yeah, like actual body armor. It's quite a good fight.
And we hadn't quite gotten in the realm of one black thing hitting another black thing just yet. Like, we can still kind of see what's going on here. We didn't quite
for once.
we didn't quite lean into the jet black Alien versus Predator Requiem just yet, even though I know that was a few years earlier.
Yeah.
But that did quickly dominate, and that's another thing that gives me the shits doing that. But having said that, though, we've also had quite a lot of action in the day as well in this film. And
Yeah.
usually a trope with the final fight, it usually does take place at night, but there's another confrontation or an action piece that takes place during the day. Like look at Spider-Man and the Green Goblin in 2002. Like, they fight at the parade in Times Square, and that's probably the biggest action piece of the film, but their final fight is at night.
Yeah,
Same
it's
thing
quite
with
good
Doc
when,
Ock. Yeah.
yeah, it's quite good when movies are on the ball with their continuity, because Michael arrived at the diner in the afternoon and they held them off through the night. We know it's dawn because Dennis Quaid was on the roof, and now it's that night. So yeah, it's really good when they're on the ball with that.
Yeah, like, it doesn't all have to be dark and night and stormy and God, I like that whole atmosphere. Just gives me the shits every time I see it. Yeah, well, you've been a fan of history. Now you can be a part of it. See where? Oh my god! Like Kevin, man, where was this acting in like the last five things you've been in? Like this is
Yeah,
pretty
I think
solid. He's
yeah, I was really taken aback watching this again a couple of weeks ago. He does probably give the best performance in the movie.
yeah. Whereas with Kimi, he's overacting like a lunatic. But mind you, Kimi and Lost, there's not really a whole lot of depth to that guy. Like that's his
Yeah.
main bread and butter. But if you're gonna hire a guy like Kevin Durand, I know we'll come up with something better for you. You're too good for this shit. Yeah, alright, so we've been meaning to tie up this loose end, haven't we?
Yeah, I was very sad when Dennis Quaid's character bit the dust here.
You know what I would have done? He walks around. You know what? I would have had it as Gabriel was walking behind the counter, or when he stands there at the like the entrance to go behind the counter to the grill and all of that. I would have just had a can just go, and that's what tips him off that he's still alive. He cracks a fresh beer.
Yeah, get ready for a surprise.
Yeah, far out. So we're still not in the clear yet. You would think after
Yeah,
escaping a fucking angel. Oh well, almost. Now this is like straight out of Jeepers Creepers here, eh? Like far out.
yeah, just yeah. When he slams down on the roof of the car, they heard a little bit earlier a radio broadcast that there's pockets of resistance,
Fucking
so they're
hell.
trying to make their way there as Gabriel tries to finish the mission.
I love how the flare ricochets inside of the car. Like that could have killed like all of them just then. God, he's on a mission now. I love it when the villain like this is about as dire as a situation can get, and I love when the villain is just like none of this. Like they always say, why doesn't the villain just finish them off? Well, look at this man. Like look the speeding car. He's got wings. He's just smashed into a car. He's just giving them everything.
Oof.
I tell you, when you see like pranged cars and all of that, they've got like dinted sides and smashed in headlights and this kind of stuff. You think, oh yeah, they had a bit of a scrape there and all of that. It always sends a chill down my spine seeing a total write off. You know, like especially when it's people were survived, and they've got their injuries and all of that. No one was killed, thank God. But it always sends a chill down my spine. Like, oh fuck, it's so dangerous.
Yeah, it's just awful to see.
Yeah, like it really
I
does.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand it had to be done, but it's also sad that Audrey died as well because she, you know, risked her life to try and get them to safety. So, but yeah, they have to leave her behind as they try and find some higher ground.
Yeah, God, man. I
You
was,
just
I
can't
was,
take a hit, this guy.
I was about to make a comment of going, well, it's already established that conventional weaponry can kill demons. I'm like, why haven't they taken a shot at this guy yet? And well, like, or are angels bulletproof? Well, I don't really think Gabriel would be giving a shit about wearing body armor if guns couldn't
Yeah.
hurt him. It's like,
Yeah, that's right. And you saw how he freaked out
and he used
before
these
the
wings
restaurant
when he
exploded.
was spinning, yeah, to ricochet the gunfire away.
Yeah, so we know that they can be killed.
It's like when people say, well, how can no one tell that Clark Kent is Superman? Do you think he's any less bulletproof at work?
Yeah, I'm Superman, and bullets just bounce off me.
Which if I ever get shot, that's what I'm going to say. Because I think that's hardcore. Yeah, fuck
Yeah.
you. You're talking to an omnipotent being. Yeah, fuck you. Yeah, here we go. Because like I was going to say that, the way Paul Bettany played the stabbing, and fell onto the floor, and like the slow skipping frame rate of that shot, it really does. Going into the movie blind, it really does make you think, oh shit, that's the end of that. Oh well, all right, well I suppose the kid's born, so the mission is done. You don't
Yeah.
kind of doubt it, but this really does just come out of nowhere. This, in hindsight, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think they sensed it would have been a massive letdown if we didn't see him with his powers back. Yeah, because yeah, like you just mentioned, like technically his mission's accomplished, but you just get the feeling the film was missing something in the final ending. So to see him come back fully restored, and his reasoning as well, Gabriel follows God without questioning. In other words, he gives God what he asks for. By defying God, he's giving God what he needs. He's forcing God to rethink. So he has his powers restored, and he's
Yeah.
back to being an archangel. And it gives not Kimi, it gives Gabriel something to reflect on.
I'm never gonna hang shit on Kevin Durand again after
Yeah,
going back to this, because I was first introduced to him through Kimi and Lost, and
yeah,
that's just unfair. That, like, seeing his back catalogue of stuff now, like, yeah, if your
yeah.
first introduction to him is through Lost, do yourself a favor and go and watch this, because
I
he
know.
has got
I
some
was
good acting chops.
Yeah, I was not prepared for his performance in this. I kind of just saw him and rolled my eyes, but he does give a really good performance in this. He's really good in it. So yeah, it made me rethink sort of everything I kind of know about his career, because he is, yeah, like I said a minute ago, I think he gave the best performance in this film.
Absolutely stole the show from the second he walked into that diner, by the way.
Yeah, it's a very strong ending.
Yeah.
It's a very strong third act, mainly on the back of his shoulders. He really carried the film. As we see their sanctuary, they've made it.
And come on, you got to have a nice sunrise. I know I've said this a few times, in when we were talking about 65, and that it's something like when the power goes out, there's always a sense of uneasiness, and we find comfort in light. So, like, having a sunrise coming out of that bleak night that they just got out of, like, like, it comforts the audience as well. Like, we
Yeah,
naturally lean towards things that are like that. And you'll also notice old mate here's got similar tattoos to Michael at the start of the film.
yeah. It happened when Michael seemingly died. The markings on Michael's body transferred to him.
Yeah. I'll have to have a look at some designs of that.
Yeah, it's not unlike Nightcrawler's markings in X-Men 2.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking of, yeah.
The back of the car full of guns. And it's kind of ambiguous. It's because the war is still on. So yeah, and again, I think it kind of hurt the film overall. It's when we're not quite sure if so they're still in danger and there's still demons out there, but just before Michael was restored as an angel, so did God restore him, or is there another force at work? It just got a little bit sort of messy with the ending. We're not quite sure exactly. Like, it was very ambiguous, so I think that kind of hurt it overall as well, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, I personally haven't seen it, but the story does continue in a television series called Dominion.
Oh, I
It
didn't know
ran,
that. There you
no,
go.
neither did I. I had heard word that they were planning it off and on like a decade or so ago, but they actually did go through and film it, and it was successful enough to get 2 seasons. I have not seen it. I found it difficult to get hold of a copy, but they do exist. It's called Dominion. So I do intend to get a copy of them and sit down and watch it, because I did enjoy this movie. And interestingly enough, or intriguingly, it's set 25 years after this film, so her child is grown up, and yeah, I guess he's ready to assume his role as savior of mankind. I'm assuming that obviously they've recast a lot of these sort of characters for the television series. But I mean, if it was successful enough to get 2 seasons, it must have something going for it, I'm guessing.
And if it was just to scratch the itch of what comes next, I'm sure you could do that over 2 seasons.
Yeah, and I was intrigued. I didn't want to read too much about it, but yeah, it's like the world's a very different place. The humans have built these huge walled cities now to keep out the demons, and it all sounded really cool. So I've been a bit sidetracked, but I have earmarked a couple of copies on eBay to get some secondhand copies because I don't believe it's streaming anywhere or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm a little bit iffy when it comes to streaming services because all the shit that I want to watch they don't have.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but I have there are some secondhand copies on eBay. I've been meaning to get around to because yeah, I watched this movie a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, I was surprised to hear because I do vaguely recall they were thinking about continuing the story as a TV show, so it was produced, and yeah, it seemed to. Yeah, it will scratch an itch of because I do want to explore more of this world. I find it a really interesting world. I think the broad strokes are there. It just probably needed a bit more fine tuning and maybe not a whole rewrite, but maybe an edit or two or a polish just to tidy up some of the more looser bits.
There's nothing wrong with another draft.
Yeah, nothing ever hurts. It just to refine the story and refine a bit more of the sort of lore around it.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. Although one thing that I think these kind of sequel series tying up loose ends and all of that need to do, the one that gets me the most is, yeah, you're supposed to be tying up loose ends, not introducing plot points that aren't going to go anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, because it was somewhat contemporary. This series came out around 2014 or 15, and if this movie's 2010. And it's an interesting time period to set it. It's set 25 years later, so yeah. Because if you have a series immediately after this, you're kind of retreading the same ground. I think that you can just sort of easily imagine they just keep sort of evading and escaping their enemy because the story's in a bit of a holding pattern now. The story won't kick into its next phase or into high gear until the kid is old enough. So setting it when he's an adult was probably a smart idea.
Yeah, and it'll be the sequel of a sequel of a sequel of a reboot. But no, I think taking it as it is, it's pretty good. You know, the less is more ending's fine. Like, I would rather have an ambiguous ending like this than have something that over-explains an ending. Like, because there's a lot of endings out there that over-explain it, and that just completely arse-ends the entire film. But I'd rather have an ending like this than it go the opposite way and over-explain what it was going on about.
Yes, the ambiguity does work well as well, yeah.
Yeah. That's just what I think. But I'm always a big believer in less is more. You know, but if your entire linchpin depends on explaining something and then you pull out the less is more card, you are a dickhead. Like, there's no other way around that. Like, a la J.J. Abrams. You know, like, I remember, like, reading that awesome quote, what was it? Director J.J. Abrams, what do you say, intentionally left plot elements out of the script of Episode 7. Well, that works so well for shit like Alias and Fringe and, you know, Take Your Poison of any other project that he's worked on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would rather have this. I mean, like, for what the film sets out to do, Michael's mission, who is essentially the main star of this film, like, his mission is complete to ensure that the kid is born. And that happens in this. So even if Dominion doesn't happen, this still accomplishes its goal in what its main character was trying to do. So that's
very
definitely
much so,
important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in that sense, it succeeds really well.
Yeah.
And yeah, the aftermath, you can take it or leave it. I really enjoy the film. It seems to push a lot of the things, a lot of the buttons I like in terms of sort of movies I'm into and subject matter. So
yeah, there's a little bit of everything in there.
It's a just interesting movie, and again, it's a relic of of another sort of time. The cinematic landscape was a lot different in the 2010s compared to the later part of that decade, certainly, and now it's something that probably wouldn't get made today. I don't think it would even pop up on a direct-to-video streamer.
It would get killed as a thought bubble today. There's no denying that.
Yeah, it seems, which is so bizarre to me because 2010 is sort of relatively recent in the grand scheme of things. It just seems so bizarre to me that a movie like this can get a big release. It's quite. I mean, like I said earlier, what a world it was.